Ethan Sweetland-May, the great name for politics, Indiana State Senate 47 candidate, getting into the game, if you will, and wondering what is even why would you? What is making that happen? What is these decisions that you're making for your life, for your family? Want to know all about your past life, your current life, and where you want the state to go. Ethan, welcome. Tell me what's on your mind. Tell me all about yourself.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for having me on. I've been following Project Next for a little while now. I love what you guys are doing here. It's really, really encouraging to see local media projects like this come up and help spread awareness and get people engaged, because we are, are we at the end of the list for voter turnout as a state? I know we're
so interestingly, we are 50th in voter turnout here in Indiana on off-year elections. We were somewhere in the low 40s, even 40th on the Trump election. There was some motivation to get out that happened. And so there was a little bump there, but expectations is that it will fall back to where it was unless progressives, moderates, just right of center kind of come out and say we're tired of what's going on and we want something else. And as you know, this is a media project around kind of trying to free Indiana, Midwest, and the United States of fear and hate, and that's the goal.
That's awesome. Yeah. No. So I am 37 years old. I've lived in New Albany, Indiana for the last 15 years with my wife, Aberlyn. She has her BFA from IUS and is an oil painter. We had our daughter in 2014. So she is 11 years old. This was started fifth grade a couple of weeks ago, and we're off to the races of fifth grade. Man, I can't believe that's middle school. When they say life comes at you fast. But no, amazing. She's actually homesick today. She had kind of a stomach bug, but we are significantly lucky that Aberlyn, she for a long time was managing Airbnbs, ran an Airbnb out of our house, but she stepped back from that recently. So we actually have a parent at home who would get to be home with our sick kiddo today, which is an immense privilege in this day and age, as I know you know, Dr. Tim.
For sure.
But yeah, I am a little bit of my background. I was born and raised in Terre Haute, Indiana. That's where a fair bit of my family still is. My mom and dad are still there. I am the fourth out of 11 kids, so it ultimately ended up being 11 kids. And my parents homeschooled all of us, all 12 grades.
Let's double click on that for a second. So 11 children. I'm seeing, where were you in the
fourth? I have two older sisters and an older brother. So
got it. And can you do the Goodwill Hunting? Tell me the name of all your brothers and sisters.
Rachel, Jacob, Natalie, Ethan, Jared, Jesse, Judah. I'm going to get in so much trouble if I skip somebody. But Jared, Jesse, Judah, Lydia, Elijah, Ellie, Julia.
Right. So, and again, can you do it a second time?
One more time. Let me do faster. Rachel, Jacob, Natalie, Ethan, Jared, Jesse, Judah, Lydia, Elijah, Ellie, Julia.
All right, there they all are. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, if you ask me to do birthdays, I'm going to close the chat. I'm just going to close it immediately. I can do most of the birth dates, but I can do all the months, but I get fuzzy around the dates for a few, and I won't say which few.
Okay, got it. Well, very cool. So 11 kids, Terre Haute. What drives a family to have 11 kids? What does that look like?
It's a great question. My parents just really liked having kids. It was something they decided they really liked and that they were good at. And it turns out they were really good at it. Every yard sale, every time we roll into Walmart, people are like, are all these your kids? And, my knack for, the dramatic flair, I come by it very honestly from my father. He's excellent at his off the cuff remarks, and he'd be like, "We just love kids," and it was always, "Are you Mormon? Are you Catholic?" We're neither. I was raised kind of traditional evangelical Protestant. Grew up in a slightly not a Pentecostal church, but like Miss Donna would dance up front, and everybody was cool with that. But nobody was like, no Benny Hinn going down under the Spirit in my church. But I about the time I was, I had people that wanted me to be a pastor or to go into politics from the time I was about 10. And I was really not into either of those ideas.
And I've seen you speak publicly. You speak like a pastor. You have that. You have that flair.
Yes. Thank you. It's definitely you become what you behold, as many pastors have said. And I've spent so many hours listening to sermons and stuff that I have no choice. It's what I've been eating and drinking for years and years and years. But yeah, I was 16, and by the way, thanks for that. It's really nice. But yeah, I was about 16 when I started working for an uncle who wanted me to become president when I grew up. And he had a carpet cleaning business in Terre Haute. And so my first entry into the job market was going into people's homes and cleaning carpet. I already had the kind of the knack for personal interaction. So of course, growing up, so like with like 11 kids, you have like two choices. You can either become the most attention grabbing version of yourself, or you can develop an inner life. And you can see the split down my siblings. You've got thinkers, you've got internal people, and you have like type people like me. And that's so I obviously kind of passed on the internal life. I've been working on that here as an adult, but certainly all outside, all gregarious, all extroverted all the time. And adults found that so charming to have a 16, 17-year-old roll up at their house and like chat them up and be friendly and clean their carpet. But it was like, it was definitely like where I started. It's like everybody has unique situations and everybody's got their own mess. Everybody is it's a shtick, but everybody is dealing with something that you don't know about. Man, when you get inside people's houses and start cleaning their carpet,
that's super interesting perspective. Being in other people's private spaces and intimate spaces.
And so that was my first job. But then by the time that Aberlin, my wife and I started dating, and then I went out to Northern California for a year. I went to a very charismatic ministry school for about a year. For those who don't know charismatic, I do mean Benny Hinn, like going down. Like I was very, very hungry to connect with God. I was very, very hungry to experience the reality of God, and it was an important step for me.
Relationship with God now.
I definitely went from that vein of faith to a lot to I went through a lot in my 20s, and the path away from kind of the big woo bang approach to faith to what I would think of as an older, more traditional approach to faith. I got really interested in Eastern Orthodoxy. I got really interested in contemplative prayer, and actually the launch of my political awakening. I grew up in a political family. My dad ran for city council in Terre Haute once upon a time. I had an uncle on the school board. And growing up homeschooled and going to conventions in Indianapolis every year, it was it's an extremely politically conscious group of people, and like real patriots. A lot of them like really care about. I mean, if you're for so many, taking the time and the effort to not only raise your kids but really put in the effort to educate them. We're talking about people that are like ready to do the work, right? And so, of course, that's also a very politically active community, and we certainly have seen that in a variety of ways play out since the rise of the moral majority and James Dobson and all of that. But after my kind of blow up in the really, really kind of outward charismatic faith, I ended up almost not quite Quaker, but pretty close to Quaker. I really embraced Anabaptism, which This is not where I did not imagine wading into this water, but I will make it brief. Anabaptists were kind of the original anti-state Christians. They got persecuted by John Calvin and by Martin Luther in Europe because they took things like the Sermon on the Mount very literally. So that includes nonviolence, obviously a super high virtue for Quakerism and Anabaptist traditions in general. And I was very much in that vein as well. And another big one is, Matthew 6 says, don't take any oaths. And they took that very literally. So you can't say the Pledge of Allegiance. You can't take an oath of office. Anything beyond yes, yes, and no, no comes from the evil one, right? Okay. And so that was actually where the space I was in 2016. I had kind of gone on a journey, both politically and spiritually, to a point where it's like, the Quakers were the first like group to fully embrace abolitionism in the United States, right? Okay. They were the first group I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I wish I could, but it was one guy who became convicted that slavery was wrong. It was just, there was no way as a Quaker to embrace slavery. Right. And he went from meeting house to meeting house to meeting house and persuaded the Quakers to renounce and give up slavery in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I found that so inspiring. And that was very much kind of the political model I had at the time. Right. And like head into 2016, I was like, we got to build community. We have to like get over this left right divide, this never ending two-headed, two sides of the same coin, two wings of the same bird, blah, 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 blah. Right. I was very conscious headed into 2016 of the differences between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And I, as a person, didn't think it was possible that Donald Trump was going to get elected. I realized as he won the nomination, as he made progress, I was very much like, this is just not going to happen. America just not going to embrace this guy that we know has such, like, even in my 20s, I was like, I know who Donald Trump is. Like, this is an objectively terrible person. I wouldn't trust him to watch my daughter, this is a very so I went to sleep on election night, not having voted because of my convictions, thinking that like America was going to trundle on and that America was going to keep doing what America's been doing for the last 20 years, last 30 years, until we got a really good community grassroots thing going where we love our neighbors and embrace the rejection and reject, injustice together. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I woke up and I looked over and Aberlin was looking at her phone and she was crying. Mm. And that was the moment that I realized that Donald Trump had won. And I just had this wave wash over me where I knew that I was safe. I'm 6'2". I'm a white guy. I live in Indiana. Not like it. By the time whatever is coming comes for me, like the world's gone. Sure. I can blend in. I can blend in any power center and anywhere. I'm not at risk. Right. And it really hit me that is not true for millions and millions of my neighbors, right, and fellow citizens. So and obviously we're seeing that in so many ways right now. And
so the story of big family, tight family, political family, homeschooled, dedicated to Christian faith, but also thinking about that faith and the historical roots of it in abolitionism, mm-hmm. In the Quaker tradition, and leading to this moment in 2016 where you realize your own path is one that has been forged by others and gotten into this place where you're in a protected place, and then see that path no longer moving forward, but maybe taking a U-turn and saying, what do I do now? So what do you do?
Well, Tim, I started reading. I mean, I've always been an avid reader. But at that time in 2016, I was working on, I worked on a garbage truck all over District 47 here for 11 years.
Okay.
Working on the back, driving it. I loved that job. Trash when I was 22 versus trash when I was 32 was not the same trash and not the same knees and shoulders and stuff. But I was working on a garbage truck at the time, and I got through about 3 or 4 audiobooks a week at that point, and who knows how many podcasts, and so sure. I was just hoovering information, and it hit me actually after 2026, it hit me that I could name on one hand the number of Black authors that I'd read. Like I was like, reading all this stuff, listening to all these podcasts. Who am I listening to? Who's forming my opinions about what really matters, about how important this social issue is, or this like criminal justice issue is? Mm-hmm. And in another embarrassing but vitalizing realization, I started reading and listening to our Black neighbors. And the book that really cracked things open for me was James Cone, who is a Black liberation theologian. He has this little book called The Cross and the Lynching Tree. And reading that book was, because I'd read W.E.B. Du Bois before, I'd read Frederick Douglass before, I'd read Martin Luther's speeches before, and we're quickly getting through on the one hand, the, Black authors that I'd read. Yeah. And reading The Cross and the Lynching Tree, where he gets granular, but also very, he just makes Christianity in the United States real in a way that I had never really dealt with, despite like the Quakerism and abolitionism. Getting inside what Black experience has been historically in the United States, and what being a Christian or being an inheritor of the tradition of Jesus has been for Black Americans, mm-hmm. Was a major part of, well, for lack of a better word, being radicalized. Just realizing that my assumptions as a safe, protected white guy in Indiana had gone uninterrogated my whole life, basically. And it was a snowball effect from there. Then it was, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. And, once you crack that egg of what does the criminal justice system actually look like if you're Black? What does it actually look like to deal with the way different neighborhoods are policed, different cities are policed based on their populations? It was the beginning of a realization. And I have this quote on my Facebook page from the Epistle of James, where he says, "What good is it if you see your brother in need, see him, need, and you say, 'Go, be warm and well fed,' but do nothing about his needs."
Right.
James has all bangers. Great book.
Well, they call that liberal elitism sometimes.
So I've heard.
Right.
I've heard.
Let's do something about it rather than just think about it and have well wishes. So
yes. Yeah. And the real liberation theology is really powerful in South America. It's very powerful especially in minority communities all across the world and here in the United States. Mm-hmm. But it was the beginning of grappling with that. None of my things have adjectives in front of them, right? I don't study liberation theology. I study theology. I don't study justice. I don't study social justice. I just study justice. I don't study, I'm not interested in whatever it is that I'm doing is just the thing. Like, it's just the thing. Like, it's weird that you guys all have things with adjectives in front of them. Like, like feminist politics. Like, why aren't we just studying politics, guys? And it is somewhat comforting that was almost 10 years ago, but then like it's a lot to reckon with in the intervening years. But still, leading into all of that, I was very, very I had no political aspirations. I had no plans to run for office.
Yeah, how does that change happen? Where does that click happen?
Well, I believe my friend Dan Cannon. Dan ran for the 9th district back in 2018. Yeah, I think he ran in 2018. And he ran a great campaign, didn't make it through the primary, but I became his neighbor. We moved about 4 or 5 years ago, and I became his neighbor. And Dan and I, Dan is a U of L professor. He's a lawyer here in Indiana, born and raised Hoosier. Like, love him and his family so much. And I was at work this summer in June, and Dan called me, which doesn't usually happen in the middle of the day. And Dan said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I am looking at a customer relations management board and fending off existentialism. What are you doing?" And because I work in technical sales at a manufacturing company in Jeffersonville. It's involved with like stainless steel vessel manufacture and mixer manufacture, which is a whole nother story. But he said, "Cool. Well, I'm going to hang up and text you a phone number, and you're going to call that number because Shelley Yoder, Senate Minority Leader in Indiana, is on the other end of that line, and she's expecting a call from you. She's going to convince you to run for state senate." And I believe my exact words were, "You son of a bitch." And he hung up and he texted me the number, and I did call, and it was in fact Leader Yoder. And she did in fact make a very compelling case why I should run for state senate. And I got off the phone, and it was close to the end of the day, and I drove home and I told Aberlin, and I'm like, I was so.
And before you move forward, I mean, the Shelley Yoder making that call can also relate to you on her own story, right? Of family, Christian family, fundamental, large family, kind of getting off the farm, moving on to an enlightenment moment. And still remaining in those roots that she has to rural America, while also, thinking about what it is to be part of the progressive cause. So that's an interesting person to put on the phone with you.
Leader Yoder is obviously an incredibly brilliant and competent person at what she does for a living, and she and Dan definitely spiked that pretty hard. We did talk about that. We talked about we talked about kind of our common backgrounds, and and I got off the phone with her, and what I immediately felt, of course, was dread. Yeah, as in like, oh no. I mean, Tim, when you first considered running, like, obviously this is your second run, which is really exciting. But when you first considered running, how was it pitched to you? Like, how did they, like, did you stumble in it of your own accord? Did somebody approach you?
I was approached more on the national level because I had been working in DC, working on healthcare reform, making access to healthcare more. Yeah. And so testifying before Congress, working with a lot of representatives. And there's actually a man named Ben Jealous, who's president of the NAACP at that time, who ran for governor in Maryland and had lost to Ben Hogan. That was later. But he was someone I knew from my business life as well, who really said, what's the next step for you here? You've learned so much. You've learned how to kind of negotiate between what it is to be someone with your own beliefs and work with someone who doesn't have your same beliefs and find commonality. And he kind of brought this idea to me as someone who is leading the NAACP around. His job was to have beliefs and not make everyone believe what he actually saw, but to work with people in order to progress the cause of freedom for Black people. So it was very interesting parallel. And he was saying, the next step for you is how do you bring that together to be able to exemplify what it is to be patient with others and still get things done.
So. To be patient with others and still get things done. That's a banger right there. Yeah, I am, and definitely thoughts like that were the cause of my dread.
Yeah.
because obviously, like, I worked on a garbage truck for 11 years, and I did carpet cleaning before that. And yeah, I know my neighbors. I am very I come from a very conservative background, and I know how profound the differences of opinion are and how deeply felt they are. And how hard it can be just to start a conversation that begins bridging the gap. Because, it can be as simple as like, oh, you're a liberal, and that's the end of it. Boom, door down. Which is, of course, how polarization works.
And vice versa, by the way.
And vice versa. Yes, exactly. Yes, absolutely. Oh, you voted for Trump? Done. No more conversation. And it just, but like, especially speaking to a progressive crowd, like, a meme that gets put around a lot is like, you have so much more in common with the person who is unhoused than you do with a billionaire. You are so much closer to an unhoused, somebody who's been kicked out of their housing than you are to, somebody who owns like 50 houses. Likewise, so much closer to somebody who voted for Trump than like, demographically, we are so, I'm not going to say that out loud. We are so much closer to my neighbor down the street than I am to, New York liberals. Like I know who these people are. So anyway, that was very much top of mind as I went home and told Aberlyn what had happened and the phone calls that had happened. I texted her right away, giving her so that she knew what was coming. And Aberlyn and our daughter Eve were literally like starting a dance party when I came through the front door. Like, we had Chapel Roan going on the Sonos, and they were like, "You have to do this." HOTTOT. I'm not doing it right. But like, they were like, everyone was like, "You have to do this. If any part of you wants to do this, you have to, because it's like, this is the thing that you weren't looking for, but has been looking for you."
Sure.
And so she, at somewhere around 10 o'clock, we put Eve to bed at a good bedtime. Aberlyn turned in around 10 o'clock. And then I did the Pablo Escobar memes from Narcos, where he's just like standing around doing these. Like, I did that till about 1 a.m. or so.
Yeah.
And honestly, I couldn't get excited at that moment. All I could think about was, dear God, what would it mean to put my family out in public like this? What do I mean put myself on the front of issues like this?
Yep.
And of course, a few weeks later, Minnesota State Senator Melissa Hoffman and her husband are gunned down in their home,
Right.
Which was a hell of an exclamation point.
You said it, you talked about issues like these, up until this point, your story has been about individual relationships and relationships with people, Yes, you were part of political family in some ways, but there were a lot of other people, I'm sure, in that family that weren't as political. But you were in a church, you were in a family, you were riding on the back of garbage trucks, you were doing this stuff that was very person to person. And then all of a sudden, the first time you just said the word issue is a half an hour into this podcast. The typical question is, what are your top 3 issues, Ethan? Tell me what the top 3 things you're going to fight for are. And I'm sure you can rattle those off, but I wonder, what are those things that you would fight for? And can you talk to me about the people that you know that need to be fought for?
The very top issue for me running for District 47, and I think it's the one that's going to affect the most people most immediately because of current political actions, is Harrison County Hospital in Corydon and Ascension St. Vincent Hospital in Salem. As far as I know, we are the only district in the state that is going to lose 2 hospitals because of the Medicaid cuts coming down from the federal and state level. And
I mean, let's talk about this, right? So, at a higher level, if I may, couch this for our viewers. Please. And our listeners, hospitals in general in rural areas have been on their heels in many ways across America. Many have closed. I live myself in an area where a rural hospital is closed. Charlestown doesn't have a hospital, and I live in the rural area surrounding there. And in fact, I work in an emergency department that serves those people. That is a standalone emergency department in order to serve those people, and we don't have a hospital attached to it. The job of that is to stabilize people and then send them into town in Louisville after we've done so. So better than nothing, and good service. But man, I wish we had a hospital here. So and you've heard the story before of, it takes an hour for an ambulance to get to me, and that's hard to leave home often, knowing that my family is here. My 3-year-old is here, knowing there's an hour between them and an ambulance. So that's a reality of America today. And a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing, and obviously, and some fear-based rhetoric from Democrats, whether they mean to or not, is around this big, beautiful bill is going to close hospitals. And in fact, the big, beautiful bill pushes it so that even more hospitals are going to struggle. And some of them who are already struggling, who have maybe a margin of +1%, +2%, or a negative margin like Harrison Hospital does, who have been already cutting services. So Harrison Hospital, and I'm got people as in Harrison Hospital executives, others telling me, stop fear mongering. I say this more truthfully. Harrison Hospital doesn't have an OB program.
Yes.
Right? They've already cut services. Ascension in North Vernon, which is another hospital which is on the outs because of the current situation, and will be only pushed further, doesn't have security in their hospital. They cut security, and they call 911 when there's a behavioral emergency, right? When a little old lady who is sick and delirious and flailing around, the nurses aren't safe, but call police for that, right? This is a misappropriation of public funds.
Great example of how cutting here costs more here.
You're
making senseless cuts. Yes,
cutting costs.
I'm not throwing that at St. Vincent. I mean, at the higher level, when you defund things like this, and you're still going to pull strain on already strained things like the police. Yeah,
blatant cutting costs, right? Yes. Surgical cutting can save.
Yes.
So it's that easy. And so, you have these hospitals that are there. Then the big, beautiful bill, what it does is cuts a couple things. One is Medicaid for millions of people, tens of millions of people. Yeah. And so if tens of millions of people over that, first of all, this goes into effect at the end of next year after the election. When this goes into effect, people lose Medicaid, and that you lose 1, 2, 3, 10% of your margin. what are you going to do? You have to figure out a different way to run your business,
Yes.
which means cutting more services, or perhaps selling your hospital to a larger system. Harrison Hospital can sell to Norton or Baptist to be able to make it so that when they have you in their hospital, they transfer you when you are profitable to them to the Louisville hospital so that they can make more money. And that becomes a loss leader is what it's called, where you're capturing patients in order to send them to be profitable elsewhere, but the hospital itself might become unprofitable. That's one way Harrison can move forward. Salem, less likely to have, because it's even a little further. Maybe the IU system does that and brings them into Bloomington, but Bloomington and Bedford are already struggling themselves. So Harrison Hospital and Salem Hospital are in dire straits. Let me add one more thing before you go, which is the big, beautiful bill also cuts Medicare. Yes. And because there's specific ways it cuts Medicare, mostly to the poor who also need Medicare. Who are on Medicaid and Medicare. The Medicare programs that cover the prescription drugs, or even more so the extra fees that everyone has to pay around Medicare. It cuts those for. We have coverage for people who are below the poverty level, so they don't have to pay those extra fees for Medicare. Now they won't. Yeah. All right, so that's one cut to Medicare. The other cut to Medicare is just the amount of payments. The largeness of the payments for the same services is going to go down.
The reimbursement,
because of the way the budget works. All right.
Yes.
And so that it will go down. So instead of getting $1, you're going to get 90 cents for the service that, your doctor will only get $0.90 instead of $1.
Yes.
Which makes it less profitable to treat people, maybe not profitable at all, again, hurting the hospital and the system. And so then maybe Harrison Hospital can survive by giving itself over to one of these larger systems. But now when you cut even more out of their budget, and these patients are not even profitable when you bring them into Louisville to treat them, now you got a situation where it's like Charlestown Hospital. How are you ever going to open one here? Right. Where does hospital go in Salem and Harrison? So, I would love to talk to the CEO or other board members about what they're going to do about that, which is about as fact-based as I can get. So there you go, just laying out the problem that's going on in your district, and which is also mine. But please, your thoughts, the people that that are dealing with this and may or may not know the situation in front of them.
Yes, and I mean that's what right now. I have been running for a month, and I've been talking to a lot of people. And first of all, I have found that, of course, there is a great deal of confusion, a great deal of misunderstanding. And to your point, saying that like the hospitals are going to be closed is a generalization to the point of not necessarily being helpful. It is much more helpful to break it down like you just did. But that the upshot is lower reimbursements from federal and state programs is going to hit our local hospitals where it hurts. And it's going to be it's going to be very, very hard.
And if they can't, they'll close. If they can't, they'll close.
And I mean, I was talking to a neighbor and a friend of mine, Miss Whitney, and she was talking about she was born and raised in Salem. She was born in that hospital, and she was talking about how it's already, in her words, it's already a Band-Aid station. It's already a way to just get people by, and if it's something really serious, they got to get them to Louisville. And her mother went into Salem about a year or 2 years ago, and was having heart problems, and it was more than what they could handle at their facility. And so they put her in an ambulance and started the hour drive to Louisville. And she went into cardiac arrest as they approached Clarksville. They pulled over and tried to resuscitate her, and they lost her. And that's with the hospital in Salem. Mm-hmm. Like that's with getting some stabilization and into an ambulance. And when you think about what, like, we know rural Indiana is hurting. We know that populations are continuing to decline in small towns. Investment is declining in small towns. And whenever you do things like whenever you push through programs that threaten hospitals, that reduce funding for schools, that you are disincentivizing both people from staying and people from looking at those communities as places where I should raise a family here. Because it's, to your point, Tim, like if you don't have a hospital and you've got a 3-year-old at home with like your wife or your husband, like one of Wendell Berry, the Kentucky poet and writer, is a great hero of mine. And he has this poem called The Mad Farmer's Manifesto. It's one of my favorite pieces of poetry. And he has this part where he says, ask yourself this, like, will this satisfy a woman near to giving birth? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman who wants to bear a child? And in terms of a policy platform, it's a hell of a question. It's like, what are we doing here? Are we building a world? Are we putting in the things in our communities that make people be like, yes, I will sleep easier because of this. Yes. A soon to be mother is that much more at peace and hopeful, looking to start a family, to have children. And when we get right down to it, when hospitals start to dry up, when school districts get squeezed and people are looking at what their options are, it's talk about wanting to open a business. Like, how are you going to open a business and you want to attract 100, 200, 300 employees to live in a place where there's no healthcare? I fear that we are not taking seriously what small communities need to thrive and be successful and draw people to live in beautiful places like Salem and Corydon, like places where people are proud to be from. Like, it doesn't work if you don't have the necessities to take care of a family. And that's why that's number one for me, headed into this election, is we've got to do more to keep our hospitals running well and obviously you talk about, we know Corydon just lost, Harrison County Hospital just lost its OB unit. St. Vincent doesn't have like security. What are we doing here? Where are we investing? Because it's not in our communities. And that after 20 years of supermajority for the Republicans in Indianapolis, everybody's sick of finger pointing, but you have a lot to answer for. And I feel that very strongly as we get started here.
And the ripple effect, Laura comments on our out of Facebook right now, your county-wide ambulance service runs out of Harrison County Hospital. So you lose Harrison County Hospital, you lose the infrastructure for ambulance system. Where are they coming from? They're not coming from Orange County. They're not coming from Salem, if Salem's also struggling. I guess they're coming from New Albany. Yes. And again, is that profitable for them to do so? And, will they actually come to you? So
more examples of careless cutting causing higher costs in every other area. It's addition by subtraction. You are adding to the cost of public services by reducing the access to them. And Ed, we could talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So Ethan, we can talk, and we should talk more for probably hours. I want to give you a couple more minutes before you have to go on two things. One, tell me about voter suppression and gerrymandering right now, what you're seeing, what you're feeling. I obviously could speak about that for 2 hours.
Absolutely.
And then final word that you have before we sign up.
Because obviously they're gunning for the seat you're running for Tim.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like they are less concerned about District 47. They feel like 47 is pretty safe. Yeah, it is an innovative and daring way to be a public facing coward, in my opinion. Obviously, Aaron Houchin has come out strongly for this. District 47 incumbent Gary Byrne has come out in favor of redrawing the maps. And it's just like, you really don't want your neighbors to be represented. That's what it comes down to. You are afraid of your neighbors having full representation, and it shows.
Yeah.
And the only reason that you're afraid of that as an elected person is if you feel like maybe you've crossed the line. Because this is as you know, this is Aaron Houchin's map. She voted for this map. This is the map the map we have, the district map that we have, is the result of Republicans being in power for decades.
Right.
Like, so the idea that we need to do more to give Republicans more power to squeeze out voters that do not agree with them is cowardice. Straight up. You don't want to have to do the work to convince your neighbors. You don't want to do the work to build a platform that actually improves our communities. You don't want to be accountable for the cuts that are going to hurt our hospitals. You don't want accountability for anything. You want people to be able to click a button when they get in the booth and vote red all the way down, and for there to be no chance of you being held accountable by the communities you're hurting.
Right.
And I think anybody that votes for that and comes out publicly for that is a coward and needs to be told so to their faces.
Sure.
It is a betrayal of our district. It's a betrayal of our communities to come out here and try to further slice the divisions so that you can split up groups that are going to vote against you. It's just cowardice.
Yeah. Well, it's an opportunity for you to get message out across Indiana. Latest poll is 55% of people do not want Indiana to gerrymander. Tell them, and then when you message to them both positives and negatives from both sides, those numbers go up into the high 60s. So it becomes a calculation for the Republicans of why haven't they pulled the trigger and made this happen right away? Well, because they do their own polling and see that it's unpopular. Now the question is, do they think they can win on messaging and bring that 55 into 45 and win? And so that means your job is to message. That means your job is to make sure people are educated and they break the straight party ticket vote and vote for you. That's your job, right? Is to
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. We're 30,000 votes, man. We're going for it. It's 130,000 people in District 47, and we can win with 30,000 votes. We're gonna do it. Yeah,
awesome. Good luck to you. Thank you so much for coming on. We will.
Can I just say? Oh, sorry. Can I just say? Kind of a closing thought. We are having a campaign launch party. If you see this, if you hear this, you are invited. We are having a campaign launch event on September 12th. That's a Friday. It's here in New Albany. And if you go to my Facebook page or my Instagram page or my website, which is ethanforstatesenate.com, spelled just like it sounds. And we're having a campaign launch event. We're going to have a bounce house for kids. We're going to have cornhole. There's going to be some snacks and some good beverages. Come on out, meet me, tell me why you think I have bad ideas. Tell me what you think I ought to do if I'm going to do something crazy like this. I want to hear it. Please come.
Bounce house is
bounce house. More technically for kids, but we are on a case-by-case basis approving adults. You have to be able to touch your toes.
Well, and I'm sorry I can't be there, Ethan. I'm working that night in that ED, the ER that's trying to save this rural area.
Yes, sir.
So thank you so much again for everything you do. Let's get back together and talk again after a couple of months of the race.
I would love nothing better.
Commiserate as well as talk about the hope. So
thank you so much, Tim. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Great to speak to you.